Good morning and welcome to our first ever new product showcase webinar for beMatrix USA. We're going to be running through some of our new innovations for the marketplace today. We're going to be doing a quick sneak peek with our presentation, but you can also see a lot of these innovations live in person at Exhibitor Live coming up next month. We're going to be at booth 627. So without further ado, my name is David Freeman. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing here at beMatrix USA. My friends with me here today are going to run through a presentation about a lot of our new innovations. As you guys are listening to the presentations, be sure to check out the bottom of your screen. We have a Q&A portal there where you can put in any questions. We're going to go through the presentation portion, and then we're going to answer your questions after that. So be sure to put those in. We can get your questions answered for you live today. And I've got Yoni Kaplan here with me, one of our technical trainers, and also Travis Fulton, who's going to start the presentation.
Awesome. Thanks for the intro, David. First thing I want to jump into is our new glass door. So this glass door is replacing a legacy style that previously it didn't integrate with our frame system the same way that this new one does. If we can jump over to the video, a little bit of an example of how that glass door works. A handsome model showing you how to open and close the door. So here you can see better how that glass door fits in with the system. It's got a corner post running along the top. It mounts in very minimal bolts. There's a couple different handle options. What you're seeing there is we call the inox handle. That comes standard with the door. It's non-locking. There's the hinges with the hinge covers. In this example, we have it showing with a glass panel. Here is just showing how to mount the hinges to the other side of the door, and then there is a cap included to cover those hinge mounts.
What's cool about the door actually is that it provides flexibility within your design. So while we don't sell the glass, we can give you the specifications for that, but you can also use any other infill within a thickness range. I think it's from 8 to 12 millimeters. So there are different options in terms of what type of panel you can use for the door. There are different ways that you can connect to frames, either 180 degrees, 90 degrees. So keeping with the beMatrix DNA of modularity, flexibility, it lets you integrate it into your existing designs and try to come up with some creative new ways to use it.
Yeah, so what you're seeing on the video there is just an example of another type of substrate that can be used.
And I think the glass door really brings a neat new design element to your beMatrix portfolio of products that can really help enhance any stand and bring some additional elements to the product itself.
Yeah, I think now as more meeting rooms are being integrated on the show floor, having a glass door as an entryway into a meeting room can really add a nice level of finish. That's something that I've been seeing a lot more of, is just semi-private meeting spaces where there's areas that are closed off from the louder show floor. So having a glass door or another kind of substrate that's low profile and sleek design, I think will go a long way.
We've used it in combination with the glass profiles as well to create, like you're mentioning, sort of a private meeting space where our sales team can interact with potential clients or other parties. And we've seen a lot of our clients additionally really gravitate towards that idea within the context of their own booth space.
Yeah.
And just to expand on what Yoni was talking about earlier, that it fits well within the DNA of beMatrix. It does come in standard sizes, so the standard size that we offer is 992 by 2418, so the same size as our standard doors. What's nice about this, though, is that the opening is ADA compliant, so it meets that 32-inch minimum for ADA compliance for when the doors open. Right here, I've got... I'm not sure if you can see this on screen. This is one of the options for that glass door. As I said, the standard door doesn't have a locking mechanism, but what you are able to add is this digital handle that you can change the code on the handle and be able to lock that glass door the same way you would one of our others. So
That's great. If you have a big team on site, you don't have to worry about making sure everybody's got a key in their pocket either.
Yep. Do you guys have any other questions about the glass door?
I think in terms of finish, comes in black and tech gray as a standard.
Standard in the US is tech gray. We can custom order black, but that's going to be a little bit longer of a lead time because it has to come from Europe. The black we will plan to keep in stock in the US, or sorry, the tech gray we'll plan to keep in stock in the US. Let's jump into another door offering. This one's more of an update to a previous version rather than a complete new door. So it's our self-closing door. It's going to look very similar to our Eco door with some important updates. So if we can jump back to the video here. So the first thing you're seeing there is the door swing stop. So when you're changing the door from left to right, it's much easier on the new door. You're not having to remove any screws. You don't have to flip the handle over. That small plastic piece just pops out, flips around, swing your door, and pops back into place, and that's it. So what would have taken a few minutes on a previous version of the door is now done in just a few seconds. So there you can see that digital handle in action. That does come as one of the options with the new self-closing door. There are a couple other options we'll get to in just a moment. There you go. So another option that we would offer is this digital cam lock with a pull tab.
The advantage of the pull tab actually is it's low profile in that it doesn't require you to modify the textile or the graphics on your door. So you can keep the same size of your graphics from show to show without having to change the handle. And then the other advantage for the textile handle is that you can ship the door and it's flat pack without having to remove the handle. So it's really grab and go. You don't have to make many modifications on site. And it's actually kind of a high quality finished look. So we had it in our booth at ISE in Barcelona, and it was a really nice looking door with really nice hard panel infills, and a textile handle was very clear where you would open the door.
It wasn't super clear in that video, but just so you can see here, the textile handle only sticks about 2 inches out from the face of the door. So like Yoni's saying, it is very low profile, very clean looking. And you do have that cam lock option. And there's a couple different places on the door where that can be mounted. One at the bottom, one closer up to where a standard lock and handle would be.
The advantage having the cam lock, the digital combo lock at the bottom, can actually see that. So this has its own dedicated plate that goes in the outer frame of the door. And if you put that at the bottom, then you don't have to cut your graphics in the middle. So you would have graphics, then the door lock in the middle, and then graphics on top. If you put it at the bottom, it's out of sight, and you can have a continuous graphic that goes all the way down to about 4 inches off the ground. So it makes it a lot more of a clean look. I think the other advantages of this door is that it's been optimized to have that really high-end finish. So the gap between the inner door and the outer frame has been minimized to 3 millimeters. With the outer frame, you can also now add SEG textile to the very bottom edge. So in a previous generation, you wouldn't have the channel for the SEG on the horizontal bottom edge. So with this door, the profile now has that integrated. One of the other kind of focuses in terms of the redesign was the ability to have just a more transportable, durable construction. So the threshold profile has been optimized to be more sturdy, and the way that it's connected to the outer frame is also just a stronger joint mechanically. So overall, it's going to be a more flexible, more modular door that you can integrate, similar to how you would our doors that we currently offer now.
Just to go over the handle options a little bit more here. So when it comes to the ordering process, you would place your order for the door and then select which style handle you'd want at that point. So whether you want the digital handle, the inox handle with the keyed lock, or the cam lock with the textile handle. All three of them offer a different magnetic catch than our previous doors. So just real quickly, the handles do latch with a magnet, whether it's the textile or the digital version. There's a different style mortise for that, but
Yeah, I think one of the challenges that it overcomes is if you're on the show floor and you're in a hurry to go from storage room to meet the customer, and you're just letting the door close. One of the challenges that I've heard of is that when the door closes, it has a loud ringing sound. So by having a soft close, self-closing pivot, when the door closes and the magnetic latch catches, that's going to be a much softer close, not as much background noise. So it's a small detail that I think is going to make a big difference in terms of how people react to the product.
Right. When we were really workshopping this product out with a lot of our clients live, that was one of actually the biggest pieces of feedback we got. Mm-hmm. And what we realized is that our clients very often, their booth staff, the main physical interaction they have with our products and with the booth happens to be the doors, and it happens to be the door handles. So the self-closing element of this door, we wanted to be very intentional about, because we thought it was something that could really elevate the experience of the staff and the clients who are working the booth in the show by removing that clank that you hear when the aluminum slams together, and adding in the self-closing parts.
And the plastic clip-in stop will also help to minimize that clanging sound. Something really cool that beMatrix is moving into is we're focusing a lot more on sustainability. And as part of that, we're working with a German company called ClimatePartner to help certify our frames. And I don't, Yoni, if you can speak a little more to that.
Yeah, sure. So essentially, this is a process that's been in the works for years now. As part of our kind of DNA within the company, sustainability has been a really huge part. And what this means for us now is that every frame that comes off of our automated assembly line in Europe is automatically certified by these markings, and that includes what is the recycled content, what is the sourcing of the aluminum that goes into the product, and how it all goes through the assembly process. So every step of the production process is included. Now, not everyone might see the obvious advantages to having a frame that is certified sustainably, but as we're seeing in the industry more and more, there are agencies and end customers that have their own way of tracking what their sustainability footprint is and what their carbon footprint is. So for every show that a customer might do, they have to put down in some forms what are the requirements and what are the regulations that they're meeting in terms of sustainability. So if you're using climate certified frames, there might be an opportunity with a bigger client who has these requirements internally. So they might come to you and say, we have our own requirements for sustainability. What are you doing as an organization to meet those goals? So having climate certified frames could lead to more business. The other thing that I've seen actually, last week I was researching some convention hall venues, and even individual shows are having their own sustainability initiatives, saying for any booth that's larger than 20 by 20, there are X, Y, and Z sustainability initiatives in terms of reusability, how much landfill waste is being produced by that booth. So more and more across the industry, we're seeing just a lot of initiatives for sustainability, and this is just one piece of that. And I think in many other ways, beMatrix is kind of showing itself as the leader in sustainability across the entire operation. So this is just one area that we're making a big difference.
That's great, Yoni, and you make a really strong point. more and more our clients and our clients' clients are looking for ways to document the facts about sustainability that they've been able to incorporate into their stands and their booths so they can present that to their end users. It makes them more attractive and more competitive in the marketplace to be able to show that climate sustainability certification through their partnership with beMatrix.
Yeah, and just to plug our other sustainability initiatives, we do have a carbon footprint calculator that you can put in all of the elements of your booth design, and we'll give you carbon footprint of that design based on where the show is, how it's being transported, and everything like that. So that's something that can be used for those purposes as well. And then we're also working on integrating that into our BCAD web design platform.
Awesome. Next, I think we're going to move into a couple new finish options. So these are kind of smaller products, product lines that work, again, within that beMatrix DNA. Just little additions to maybe some things that we already offer. First thing I want to touch on here is the new B1.24 hole cover. So this is the width of 2 frames. So we have our standard hole cover, 62 millimeters wide. Last year we came out with our 186 hole cover, which was 3 millimeters wide, and it seemed like there was some market demand for just that space in between. So now we have a hole cover for 2 frames wide, or 124 millimeters.
Yeah. So what this helps you achieve is, let's say you're building a double wall where you have elements on 2 sides of the wall, or if you're integrating your frames into a 124 millimeter light box. So either for an added finish to have a thicker wall look without having to cover it with Sintra or some kind of infill. This gives you the high quality anodized finish that you would expect from our frames, or the anodized brushed surface, not necessarily anodized process, but just gives you more flexibility in terms of how you're creating your walls, especially with the integration of LEDskin and BTVs into inline walls. I'm seeing more and more use of double walls being 2 frames wide. And the other neat thing about this is that it doesn't require any new types of clips. The same cover clip that you would use for attaching a 62 millimeter profile to the end of a frame, you can just use 2 of those, and it attaches into the holes of a B62 frame or a 124D Lightbox extrusion.
Awesome.
Yep.
David, do you have any questions about?
Not right now. No, I think you guys covered it well. And I know if you guys in the audience have any questions, just be sure to put those in the Q&A down at the bottom, and we'll be addressing those again at the end of the show. So we really look forward to that.
Awesome. Next 2 items are some new corner posts. This first one's a new 120 degree corner post. So we already had a 45 degree, a 60 degree, 135 degree, and now we have a 120 degree post. So if you're looking at the images I've got on the screen here, the image to your right hand side, it just kind of shows how that looks in a finished application. So you've got one side that's completely solid, and then 2 sides of that triangle are going to be open with the M8 thread slot, so you're able to thread in just standard M8 connectors through the frames into those. But if you'll notice on the kind of the crosscut profile section I've got there, you can see that it's threaded on all 3 sides. So if the need arose, you could have the option to drill out one side of that to add an additional frame to the 3rd side. So you could have 3 frames coming together at that 120 degree angle with this corner post.
So because the B62 system operates on the 62 millimeter grid, and a lot of the connections traditionally have been 90 degrees, 180 degrees, a big question that we get is when you come to have angled connections, how do you finish off that gap that exists between the frames? So this and the other corner posts that Travis mentioned are kind of the answer to those challenges that you might face in terms of finishing. So you don't want the gap to show, you don't necessarily want the holes to be exposed on the edges. So this is a way for you to put a profile that matches the look and feel of the frames in between that, in that spacing. So in terms of actually finishing it with the textiles and with hard panels, I believe that with hard panels, it's going to be pretty straightforward. Obviously, with textiles, one of the questions I know we're going to get a lot of is, can I stretch the SEG textile across the corner post? And I think the answer is going to be yes. It's not going to have the SEG channel across the top, but similar to how you would span other gaps in that way, it's going to definitely provide a much cleaner finish, but there's no channel at the top. Now, if you wanted to, fabricate something that just receives that SEG at the top, I think that's a good option. But there's always going to be different ways that you can use this profile, and I think stretching the SEG textiles across that surface is going to be something that we'll see a lot of.
Yeah. And just to touch on that as well, if you do want to stretch that SEG across the face of that 120-degree post, just make sure to work with your print partner, your textile provider, and we'd be able to supply any specifications to kind of help them calculate what that stretch is going to be between the two frames. All right, so next piece I want to showcase here, it's more of an update rather than a brand new product. So a lot of you are going to be familiar with our 4-slot SEG corner post. What's new about this one is that it now has SEG slot on all 4 corners. The previous version only had it in one corner, so you had to be a lot more careful with how it was oriented while you're building the booth. Now that is no longer an issue. So it doesn't matter what orientation you mount this in as you're building your frames around it. You won't have any issues with that SEG slot being on the wrong side. Another benefit of that is you're able to finish the end of a single wall. Say if you needed to add a fabric to the very end of a span, you're able to do that with this SEG corner post, the quad SEG. And you can see I've got a couple different ways that it's finished here. Not sure if you can see that on camera, but so on this side I've got the SEG ending at the frame and then starting again at the corner post. I've got just another individual panel of fabric on the end here. And on this side, I've got it probably the most standard way that you would normally use an SEG corner post, wrapping from this edge of the frame to the edge of the post. So it opens up a lot of different options. And as always, it's still going to use our same M8 connection pins. So not a lot of difference in the functionality of it, but a lot of new benefits to the design.
What I love about this one is it just makes life easier. It makes life easier for our clients and a little bit less thinking on the show floor.
Absolutely.
All right, I know, Yoni, you said, it sounded like you had something to add there.
Oh, just that, kind of what you were going to say is that it's really just a simple upgrade. So this is going to be the new standard for the SEG corner post. And so when you order an SEG corner post at the 2418 length for your design, this is what you'll get. So keep in mind that this will work with your existing inventory, and it's going to have a similar part number, but it will, the functionality is going to be improved. And kind of what Travis was saying is like, now when you have people who are building your design who may not be as extremely well versed with the beMatrix systems in terms of, which orientation the corner post needs to go in, this provides the symmetry that you need just to be able to put it up in any orientation, and will give you the freedom to just keep building without having to feel like you have to go back and redo something because the corner post is angled in the wrong direction. Again, really just a simple update to one of the key products that we integrate within our frames and systems.
Yeah. Just to clarify on that as well, it is a running change. So if you already have existing orders for 4-slot corner post, once we've kind of reached our limit of what we can supply of the legacy style, we're going to move straight into providing the newer style. So like you're saying, they integrate seamlessly. Where you used one, you can still use the other. So you may be able to ask your account managers for this style specifically if you've got a project in mind. Once we run out of the legacy style, this will be the new standard.
And what's shown in that image on the right actually is the accessory that we currently offer for our corner posts is a cap that goes on the top, and that essentially lets you continue the horizontal SEG across the top of the frame and at the bottom, and that cap will be integrated and compatible with this newer profile. So no changes there.
Awesome. So we are going to jump into our new LEDskin. Yoni, I think, is going to show us in person just some new features of the LEDskin. So.
Okay. So this is a new updated version of a 2.5 pixel pitch LED skin. Basically our integratable modular LED tiles that fit within the 62 millimeter system of beMatrix. So the overall size of this is 496 millimeters squared. So it's as close as you can get to half a meter within the 62 millimeter grid. And similar to all of our other products, it's integratable using the same hardware and connectors that you can connect to B62 frames, light boxes, doors, corner profiles, all of the interchangeable parts that you would normally use. So on the sides here, we have connectors that allow you to connect LED cabinet to LED cabinet. There's a nice handle integrated into the frame, similar to our other products, and some other improvements that we've done to these cabinets are improved holes and threads at the bottom that allow you better connectivity. In terms of the actual technical specs of the display, the chip that's actually driving the displays is going to be an A10S Pro. So that's going to be an upgrade from previous generations, which were A8s or A8s Pro. And the other kind of major improvements that we've focused on for this product is durability. So whereas the previous generation of 2.5s had single pixels integrated into a single housing when it gets attached to the PCB, to the circuit board, now we have what's called a 2-in-1. So this is a 2-in-1 IMD, which means integrated matrix device. So this means that 2 pixels, 2 essentially light diodes are assembled within one housing, and that gets attached to the PCB. So that means there's more connection points for that pair of pixels, which means it's going to take more to damage or basically break that connection. So I think in terms of actual measurements, we've found that it's maybe 3 or 4 times stronger in terms of what it takes to actually break that electrical connection and do any type of permanent damage. So that's just an area that it's been improved upon. The other area is that rather than having small individual masks where it was, I believe, 16 masks per module and then 32 masks for the entire cabinet, we now have larger masks. So that means when you need to actually replace the masks that go onto the modules. You have fewer parts to deal with and less time needed to actually make that repair. If we look at the back here, there's some major improvements that we've implemented. So one of the things that you'll notice from the previous design is that the PDU, or the power distribution unit, this is kind of the brains of the entire module, and it's the thing that connects and talks to the other components. We've made that narrower so that you can actually make it front or rear serviceable. So if I pull out one of these modules and I need to repair this from the front side, I would be able to take this off and put it through that opening without having to disassemble the entire wall. This is the other feature we have, is more of a safety feature. So if I'm removing the modules from the front side and I'm pushing these out, because it requires a little bit of force, one of the safety challenges there is that if I'm pushing out and I don't have a stable footing, I might let go of that module and it could fall. And if it's from a high height, that's obviously a safety concern. So with the 1.5s and the 2.5s, we've integrated some safety latches so that it's kind of a tether, so that the top module is now tethered to the bottom module, so that any safety concern that you would have from servicing these modules front or back is now reduced. Give me a second to put this back on. The other improvement here with these green latches, you can see, the handle was made to be a little bit lower profile, so that when you are opening and closing it, it's not extending beyond the footprint of the frame of the cabinet. So, for example, if I have a wall that's directly backing up to this, and I can't take this cabinet apart, if I need to unlatch this for some reason or to redo it, if there is something here, it wouldn't get in the way. There wouldn't be any interference. So that was one of the challenges that we saw with the previous generation. There are some neat kind of just design elements that we've put a lot of thought into. So you'll notice here that the power button is down here, and it's inside of these 30 millimeter indentations that are made to look like a B62 frame. And now if I want to remove this PDU unit, I just undo these latches and it comes right off quite easily. There are arrows on here that show you which direction is facing up, and it has all of the information that you would need in terms of electrical specs, serial numbers, and all those things on the PDU itself. Is there anything else to add to that?
I don't right now. I know we're getting ready to take a look at the 1.5s, but Yoni, I think you did a great job showing the different aspects of the 2.5s for us.
I think a question that does come up a lot is if the new 2.5s will can be displayed at the same time as the legacy 2.5s, and they can use similar content, and really you run the same content between the two. However, they won't. You can't lock the two together. And there's a little bit of a visual difference, kind of a visual upgrade to the viewing angles of the new 2.5 versus the old 2.5. And if you had them directly next to each other, you'd be able to tell a little bit of that difference. So something good to keep in mind is if you do have older stock of the legacy 2.5 and you're purchasing the new 2.5, that they won't interconnect. So you would need to run them in separate areas of your booth, but like I said, they can run the same content. Pixel pitch is the same. You may just have to adjust brightness a little bit. But let's move on to the 1.5s here. So I think Yoni's got a physical example there as well. So yep, take a closer look at that.
Okay, so obviously, with anything that has to do with technology or displays, there's always a drive to go smaller, more advanced, more precise. So this is a kind of a real upgrade to make that the right orientation. This is going to be a real upgrade in terms of picture quality, brightness, and display, and all of the technical specs are available through our website. And you can also reach out to your account manager, account executives. They'll be able to provide a lot more detail. But I just wanted to go over some of the kind of visual and mechanical features that we've introduced into this product. The first major difference is actually the surface of the display here is totally smooth, and that's because we've integrated this product with a glue layer. So it's kind of a optical epoxy layer that gets placed over the LED pixels. So that's going to provide better picture quality, but also protects the LEDs themselves from any type of bumping or damage. So it's just going to make for a much more durable product in the long run. So it's a little bit difficult to see from this viewpoint, but we do have some really good high quality images available. Yeah, so it's smooth to the touch. It has a lot better pixel density. So the 1.5, as we call it, is the spacing between the pixels. So that means that the closer the pixels are together, the higher quality picture display you're going to get. Now, what that means is that's going to be more performance required for the same size cabinet. So there's going to be a higher number of total pixels in this 1.5 product than a 2.5 or even a 3.1 pixel pitch. So the smaller you get, the more fine resolution you would get on your display. Now, the advantage there is for a larger pixel pitch like 2.5 or 3.1, which have been big sellers in the past, those are going to be for displays that are either higher up at a high level, maybe second level signage that you want your audience to see from 10 feet away, 8 feet away, something a little bit more distant to kind of grab their attention. 1.5 is going to be really useful for close-up viewing. So within the 4 to 8 foot range is going to be the optimal viewing angle, 1.5 meters actually. So that's going to be really useful for engaging your audience with high quality text or content that is going to be right in front of them. So it's almost like a digital signage element that you can integrate at the bottom level of a booth or into a wall that someone's going to be standing right in front of. So a little bit more quality of a picture in terms of what you're able to showcase with your content. Now, one of the questions that we get is, can you take the same video content and take it from the 2.5s and now run it on the 1.5s, just plug and play? I don't think it's going to be that easy, especially considering all the different LED processors and controllers that you would use. I think with scaling tools and different ways that you can change the settings on your actual processor, I think there's ways that you can scale and adapt it. But I think the best, obviously the best is going to be creating dedicated content for 1.5s because it's just going to have a much sharper picture with more vibrant colors. In terms of the size is going to be the same, 496 by 496 with 4 removable modules each. In terms of the cabinet, there actually are some significant differences. This is going to be a lighter weight cabinet. So I think it's about a 10 to 15% reduction in weight over our previous LEDskins. There's not the same magnetic alignment features that you would have on the 2.5s, and the latches are going to be slightly different. This actually has a quick release latch. So I can't show it here because I'm not attaching 2 together, but here at the bottom, if I imagine that I'm attaching this cabinet to another cabinet up here, I would put this latch in, and then when I want to release it, I'll have a quick release latch that will let me assemble and disassemble much more quickly. Another feature that allows us to save weight and kind of reduce the footprint of this product is a much narrower PDU unit. So you can see that this is quite narrow. And as I mentioned before, the same safety latch to hold tether the modules together is going to be present in this as well. A lot of the same features from the other cabinets carry over with the handles and all of the attachment methods that you would need to attach to your beMatrix systems in other ways. Corner profiles, frames, different types of frames and doors allow you to attach directly to the LEDskin in both equivalent ways for the 2.5s and the 1.5s. So in terms of technical specs, this is going to, the brains behind the LEDs here are just going to be a much more high-performing type of technology. I think this is also the A10S Pro in terms of the actual chips running the technology, and with brightness and viewing angle, I think these are going to be top of the line in terms of the industry. Now, overall, if you look at other types of LED skins on the market or other types of LED tiles from other manufacturers, it's going to be hard to find what we call chip-on-board 1.5s that are this durable. Because we've integrated the glue layer and because we've increased the performance in a 1.5 pixel pitch format, this is kind of a unique product that's on the market right now. So it's been getting a lot of attention. It's won some awards. So we're excited to be able to release this to customers and see what they do with it.
Awesome. Thank you, Yoni. It was very informative. If you want to see the 1.5 in action, we've got it on the wall behind Yoni, and we'll also be showcasing it at Exhibitor Live and EMS.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Yoni. That was an awesome description. And like Travis said, guys, come check us out in San Antonio next month. Come see the new LED skins. They're always one of the stars of the show. Booth 627. And if you guys have any questions, be sure to check out that Q&A portal at the bottom. We know there's going to be some questions about the LED skins. So let's get them in there now. And once we wrap up with questions towards the end, we'll be able to take those on for you guys.
Cool.
Nope.
Now we'll jump to our 124 Lightbox. That's a product we came out with last year. So the Lightbox itself is not necessarily new, but we do have some new additions to the functionality, some new options to really make it a more versatile unit. So right here, what I've got on the screen is our 124D Lightbox Perfect Corner. And as you can kind of see from the image on the right-hand side, when you're using it in that corner functionality, it still is able to be seen from both sides, so you can make that like a hanging box design where you've lit the inside and the outside. If you look at the picture I've got on the left there, that's just the actual corner piece, and then there's an extrusion that goes between the bottom and the top. As far as integration with your current 124 stock, you're able to take your 124D light boxes that you already have in your inventory and add these corner pieces as an add-on. If we jump over to Yoni here, something else new that we're offering for the 124D light box is a few new accessories. So what we've got showing there is our monitor mount. And Yoni, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're able to mount up to a 32-inch monitor on those.
Yes, and we do have some documentation that will let you know exactly how much weight this can hold. But if I look at the back here and show how exactly this is hanging on, so we have some clamps here that clamp to the tube with finger tight wing nut attachment method. And what this also allows you to do is attach different accessories. So it's not just a monitor mount. If you wanted to hang something that's shelving or some kind of picture frame, that would be an option as well. And this clamping method allows you to slide up and down. The other features that I'll showcase for this product. So this is a product that we've had on the market for a little while, but I'll just showcase it. This is the 124D Lightbox extrusion, and this gives us the ability to be more modular with our Lightbox designs. So this is a 90-degree corner profile here, and this is showing how the holes are exposed, and on this bottom side, it's showing how it's reversible, and you can have one side that's finished. So if you know that one edge of your Lightbox is going to need to be a solid surface, you would just order a Lightbox that has at least one side with the solid profile. So we're kind of just introducing that as a way to keep it modular. Keeping with the easy and flexible design, all of these components and attachment methods for the 124D are all possible to assemble without any tools. So everything's done by hand. Getting back to this, it has these cutouts as a weight saving measure, but it also has different holes here that allow you to meet different standards for base amounts, and allows you to take the monitor and just hang it in and then tighten it from the back. So it has the kind of keyhole slots that allow you to put it in and then slide it down. So a really sturdy, well-built type of product. It attaches to these poles, which clip in at the top and bottom. And when you integrate it with the lights, you'll have the light throw bounces off the reflection of the pole itself. So there's not very much light loss in terms of seeing the shadows of those poles. So your ability to mount a monitor to a light box is now enabled by this type of product, and we're excited to be able to show you more accessories coming up.
All right. So here's another way to use that perfect corner. So this is a corner mounted unit with that graphic wrapping all the way around. Here's a little bit of a video of Yoni assembling one of these light boxes. There's a 180-degree connector going into that corner piece. Just a short clip of how the lights get mounted here. So those lights can be mounted through the holes in the lights themselves, or these small plastic clips that also offer cable management functionality. So if you're unfamiliar with the 124D lighting, what's nice about those lights and those cables is that it's a universal clip. They're not a male or female, so it doesn't matter which way you orient that light. It's going to plug in with no issues. So, and just like Yoni was talking about a moment ago, those the support beams clip in super easily. So they just lock right into place, and they slide to wherever you need them. Here's that monitor mount on a light box. And then just a little clip of how easy it is to slide that SEG into that. All right, David, do you have any questions about the light box options, the accessories, anything like that?
Let me see. You mentioned something a little bit earlier. You showed an image, and it almost looked like the light box was hanging from the ceiling. Was that what I saw?
Yeah. Well, why don't I go back to that slide here? So yeah, if you look at that one on the right, it can be hung from the ceiling. One of the other accessories we offer is a rigging point, a rigging bolt. So it can be hung just using the holes that are already milled into that 124D extrusion. And you can see that light from both the front and the back still, even when you make that box shape with the corners, like having the perfect corner on all four corners.
Very cool. Very cool innovation. I love the way that this product in particular, again, just makes life easier on the show floor, faster, easier, ready to get it up and going quick.
Definitely. Oh. All right. Let's see. I think the last thing we have to talk about is our new universal pin connectors, which we've got some here in the studio. We can kind of
Another live studio demo.
Discuss a little bit about them. So what's really cool about these is they're taking the place of some of our heavier connectors. What's cool is, sorry, Yoni, if you can grab me the tool.
Mm-hmm.
The nodes on these are really easily removable. So depending on the different situation that you're in with your connectors, these can come in handy in a lot of different ways. So there's 2 screws holding each of these nodes. Each of the nodes has an M8 thread to it. In between, so the nodes are each on the 62 matrix. In between that, at the 31 millimeter points, we also have 2 more M8 mounting points. So whether you're using these for glass frames, light boxes, going from frames to other things within our system, the V62 system, they will integrate with really anything that we have to offer. Each of these also comes with a set of bolts, both a countersunk bolt, and so there's some countersinking on the back here with an M8 thread that comes up through the top. And then there's also a smaller M8 bolt that just threads down from the top of your profile, again, whether it's glass, light box, anything like that. So when we say universal pin connectors, these are truly universal. They can really be used with anything in the beMatrix product line.
Yeah, I think as beMatrix launches new profiles and new systems that integrate into its existing systems, the challenge there is you're going to have just more complexity and more questions arise of how do I connect X to Y and how do I connect X to Z and so on and so forth. So if you're thinking about the simplicity of the design, it's really just a few parts. So it's four nodes that get mounted to the plate, but even within the plate, there's a lot of intelligence built into it that allow you to attach to different products in different ways. So for example, this pin that's on here allows you to connect to 30 millimeter holes as well as slots that you would find in light boxes and glass profiles. So the same part allows you to attach to different things without having to remove it. So a lot of thought went into just a pretty simple looking part. But I think that's what's great about our design team is that they just really think things through and figure out how to reduce the number of new parts needed within our system.
It's cool, Yoni, and I think the thoughtfulness of the product and the simplicity of it is really neat. Let me ask you this. So I know with the existing pin connectors, stackability was one of the really attractive assets of the product itself. How does this one work and relates to stackability? Do you guys know?
So this isn't replacing the Zamac pin connectors. Those are still going to be the standard. If you're just making a frame wall, you're going to be better off using the Zamac pin connectors 9 times out of 10. These are for those more unique connections where you're not just putting 2 frames together, you're putting a frame next to a glass frame or a light box that isn't going to make that connection with those Zamac stackable plates. These are a little heavier than the Zamac. They don't have that same stackable functionality, but you're not going to need nearly as many of these as you will with the Zamac plates.
All right, so that's the new products that we're going to be looking at today. It is time to jump into a few of the questions that we're getting from the audience. So let me jump into the computer and see what we've got here. Again, as we're going through the presentation, you guys have been providing us with a few questions through the Q&A portal, and we are going to jump into those right now. I'm going to start out with, it looks like we got a few questions about the glass door. So we'll kind of organize these into buckets. Let me ask you, Travis, what was the client need in relation to the glass door that drove this innovation?
So, as I mentioned earlier, we had an existing glass door, but it was meant to be built into a larger glass wall. It wasn't very modular. It didn't fit well within the beMatrix DNA. And I think a lot of our clients wanted to take that, just the glass door piece, and use it within their frames. A lot of our clients like to have that nice, clean finish look of a glass door, where we couldn't provide that in conjunction with our frames until now. So I think that was a big driving factor in the overall design of that door.
So to add to that, I think there's a number of ways in which this product came about. So I think with any good design team, what they're going to look at is how are customers using an existing product in a way that the original designers didn't anticipate. So when you look at our standard B62 pivot doors, what we saw was customers wanting to have a transparent or semi-transparent substrate over the door. And they were asking, well, how do I add a piece of plexi over a standard pivot door? And as that product went through the years, we saw different ways that they were using those transparent or semi-transparent substrates. And the reason for that is either there's an accessibility question of you need to see what's on the other side of that door, or as we're seeing in a lot of booth designs and overall convention trends, is there's more need for transparent and semi-transparent spaces. So whether that's meeting rooms or storage rooms, so just to have the ability to see through a wall provides the depth to that space. So as we saw more and more customers using our standard pivot door with glass or plexi as the substrate, we knew that they wanted, as Travis was saying, a cleaner finish, not having the holes being exposed on the inside. So all of the ways in which they were compensating for the design using a product in a way that it wasn't intended. So that kind of brought about this glass door. And it's not just glass, you can use other substrates as well. One of the other questions that comes up is what type of material thickness are we looking at here? So we do have a document that explains if you're using glass or plexi or another type of substrate, what thickness you would use. I think for glass, it would be 8 millimeters minimum. And then if you're using something like plexi, it would be 12 millimeters. So we do have the specs, and then we would have also different cutouts that you would need for the hinges.
Yeah, the recommended is going to be a 10 millimeter maximum, whether it's glass or plex.
Okay.
But 8 millimeters is the minimum for both.
Got another question from the audience. This one's in relation to the new quad SEG corner posts. So two-part question for you guys. Is there an SEG cap for the top and bottom of the quad SEG corner post? And when is this SEG cap going to be released?
So the SEG cap is going to be identical to the one you already have. So if you've already got the standard single corner SEG post with caps, those same caps can be repurposed to the new corner post, the new quad SEG corner post. If you want them ordered with the caps already, that's something you'll have to address with your account manager. But the same way you would order the previous version cut shorter to compensate for the thickness of the caps, you can do the same thing with the newer post, and you'll get the exact same caps.
Do you know the height of that cap roughly?
I believe it's 8 millimeters. So 16 millimeters needs to be shaved off of each end of the post to keep it within the 62 matrix.
That's always something the account managers would be able to help anybody out with who has any questions. Another question about the quad posts. Give me 1 second. Will the previous part number automatically substitute for the new 4-track corner post?
Yeah, and that was something I kind of touched on a little bit earlier. This is a running change. As soon as we've exhausted all of our inventory of the previous version, the part number won't change, the order process won't change. We will just move straight into using the new quad SEG to replace the legacy version.
Okay. From the audience, again, how soon will these products be available? The big question, right?
So a lot of what you saw today either is already available or it's on order and should be available to fill your orders within the next month or so. Like I said, with products like the Quad SEG, that is a running change, so we do have that in stock, but you may not see that filling your orders until we've exhausted everything we have. Other products like the 120-degree corner post, that's still on order. It's still on a boat coming to us, and we should have that sometime within the next month.
Awesome. Thank you. This is a good one from the audience. I'm going to bounce this one over to you, Yoni. Can I mix different generation LED tiles, our second generation and our first generation? Can you put them together?
You can put them next to each other, but you can't wire them together because we're using different chips to run the newer versions. So we've upgraded the technology, and unfortunately, there's not backwards compatibility. It's just different. They speak a different language essentially. So you can have the same content running side by side, but they're not going to be connected together in terms of the data or the power. That's not recommended. I think there are going to be cases where you see new 2.5s, legacy 2.5s, and 1.5s kind of integrated into the same design because that's what customers had inventory of. And in fact, at our booth in ISE that we saw, that's what we had. We have all the different versions of our different LEDskin products kind of working together in unison. So in terms of running the content, you would have to specify which type of product you're going to be running which content on. But in terms of, if you're designing content, there might be different resolutions that you have to adjust the content for. But they should work together pretty well in terms of picture and actual visual specs. But when it comes to joining them power and data and then mechanically, you're going to want to use different connections there.
We'll have a great opportunity to check those out. Again, like Yoni said, at 627 in San Antonio, we're going to be showing our 1.5s and the 2.5s within the context of that booth. So a really neat opportunity for anybody who's in town that day. Come check us out again. Another question. This one we're going to pivot over to the light boxes a bit. Is the 62 millimeter light screen profile completely retired?
The 62S Lightbox, no, definitely not retired. It has its applications. If you're needing to fit a Lightbox within a single frame wall, I would still definitely default to using that 62S single-sided Lightbox. The 124 certainly has a lot more versatility, but the 62, the 124, and the 186 all have their place. They all have different functionality that is going to make them the best suited for a specific design.
Actually, the 62S is something that we've updated in the past year. So we're still promoting it, we're still selling it, and we've actually made it more compatible with our existing products. And this universal pin connector is actually designed to be compatible with the 62S because this slot pin here fits into the slot of the 62S Lightbox profile. And another change to the 62S profile is that the mounting holes went from 6 millimeter diameter to 8 millimeter. So it was one of the only things in our entire system of products that had a 6 millimeter attachment thread. And now we've upgraded it to be 8 millimeters with our other standard bolts. So still going strong.
Okay. Quick follow-up question added onto this one. Is the 124 actually available for purchase now? I'm going to take that one, Travis.
From a stock standpoint, I don't have that answer. It is a very popular product, so when we get it, it goes quickly. as far as just availability in the marketplace, it has been for sale. The 124D has been for sale a little over a year now. We launched it last year. So today we're just showcasing a couple new options that are not necessarily available just yet. But like I said, we have them on order. We should have them in the next month or so. But as far as the 124D profile, that exists. It's available as long as stock permitting.
Right.
So the perfect corner is something that we're still.
Yeah, perfect corner, we're still waiting to receive before we can start filling orders. And I think some of the accessories that we showcase, like the monitor mount, that is still something relatively new to us, so we haven't received the stock to start fulfilling orders. But the actual Lightbox itself, several of our customers have been using it and really enjoying it. So,
Excellent. So moving on, we got some great questions about the self-closing pivot doors. This one, always interesting. So guys, tell me a little bit about this. The audience wants to know what door handles and locks come standard with the door.
So we've kind of gone back and forth deciding what the standard should be. And I think ultimately it came to, it's going to be better for the customer at the time of order to dictate what door handle they need, instead of us providing one fixed style and then them having to upgrade. When you place your order for the new self-closing door with your account manager, you will then specify whether you want the textile pull handle, the digital door. So does that answer your question, David?
It does, as well as the digital locks, I think, are additionally available.
You can also order all of them and have it be interchangeable within the application that you're using it throughout your different shows.
Absolutely.
Right. Is this door ADA compliant?
So we do offer a wider width that so our 1178, which is slightly larger than our standard size door. If you were to order that specific size, it becomes ADA compliant. The current size of our standard door, the 992, the opening does not quite meet that ADA compliant standard, I think of 32 inches. So if you did require that, you would need to order the 1178 width door.
Yeah. That's awesome to know that we can do that. In certain applications, I think that could become really valuable on a show floor. Regarding the door, another one came in. Do we have to remove the infills to change this to a left or right-sided opening?
No, so your infill should remain exactly the same. In most cases, you're going to be able to leave it attached to the door. Like I showed in the video earlier, it's just a small plastic clip. You'll open the door one way, flip that clip around, swing it the other way, and that's really all there is to it. So there's no changing of the infills, no screws to remove. The only thing you may have to do is, depending on your lock style, you'd either have to flip this from the inside to the outside, or again flip the digital cam lock from the inside to the outside. But
while we're on the topic of the door, I have two other things that we didn't cover. Can I see that clip for a second?
Yeah.
The plastic clip. Yep. So this clip is the new standard for being able to change the door from an in-swing to an out-swing, left to right. But the door will come with an extra clip, I believe. And the reason for that is if you put two of them and you clip them into the door, that actually holds it in place during transport. So one of the challenges with previous doors is that when you remove the handle, you now have nothing that's holding the interior door from swinging. So when you're transporting it and you wanted to lift it up, you'd lift up the outer frame and the inner frame would fall down and kind of be a loose element. So with this clip, we now allow you to clip it onto two sides, and you're essentially capturing that inner frame so that it doesn't swing during transport.
Yeah, that's a great point, Yanni. And just to add to that, on the inside of the door frame, there is a storage slot where this can clip into the inside of the door frame and kind of be out of your way. So that additional one Yoni was referring to, you're not at risk of losing that, having to find a place to store it. It'll clip right under the inside of that door. Once you've removed the infills, you take it out, and then you're able to package that door back up the same way you received it.
Nice point, guys. The little things can make a big difference sometimes.
Another thing regarding transport is this this lock. The way that it clips into the door actually allows you to store it during transport. So it will actually sit inside the door while it's being transported, as opposed to having to put it in a separate box and eventually get lost. Something that travels with the door. Another feature there.
Question around kind of user experience, right? What does the booth staff see and hear and touching and feeling while they're on site? Is there a soft close feature to this new door?
Yeah, that's something we touched a little on earlier. A couple things that help to make that soft close a little better is the clip, like we were just showing. It's plastic instead of having something metal that the door is running into as it closes. So that's going to alleviate a lot of that noise that you get with the legacy style doors. The other thing is the magnetic latch on the inside of on the mortise. So having a magnetic latch there to kind of stop the door, rather than having a traditional, like a house style latch where it's actually making contact with the door as it closes. That magnetic one, once the door closes, it pulls itself shut, and it's extremely quiet compared to the older style.
All right, guys, we got some questions around the climate certified frames and sustainability from the audience. So what advantages to the end users does the climate certified frame provide?
I think I'll throw that one over to Yoni.
Yeah, sure. As I touched on before, I think essentially will allow you to do more business. You know, for an end user, a lot of times, you know, if it's a bigger corporation or a widely known brand, a lot of times they'll have their own sustainability initiatives. But also just within the business world, we're getting more and more focus on how do we get more sustainability into our entire operation. So it's not just putting solar panels on the roof of our buildings and driving electric cars, but it's also what is our impact for all of the marketing and sales efforts that we do. So for an end user brand, there's going to be more of a need to have these sustainability metrics that you can actually refer to when you go to your end of your year reports and things like that. So having a climate certified frame is one of just one piece of the puzzle, but if you're going to a lot of shows, 10, 12 shows a year, that could be a pretty big piece of the puzzle, I would say. And then the other advantage is that it lets you promote it and say, hey, this is something that we've taken initiative on, and even more venues are having their own sustainability initiatives. So convention halls are putting in place requirements to say, for certain size booths, you need to have a certain percentage of your booth that is reusable or sustainably sourced, and that it's being used multiple times.
More and more, I think the end users are looking for ways not only to increase the sustainability of their marketing projects and their trade show event experiences, but they're also looking for ways to document that sustainability. And I think this is something that really will speak to the end users, as now you guys, as the exhibit houses who are working with the end users, can provide that documentation. The stamp on the frame itself actually has a QR code that refers back to the specifications of the certification, and it makes the entire process very legitimized for our end users, and it's something they can really be proud of and that they can promote both internally and externally to show that they've really gone out of their way to achieve their own sustainability initiatives, which you see just growing daily throughout our industry, throughout the EDPA, all over the place. It's becoming more and more of a hot button issue.
I think also just in terms of the material composition of the frames themselves, I believe it's about 70 or 72% recycled aluminum, which is what we've figured out is the maximum allowed recycled content in order to meet the same structural specifications that we require for our frames. And I think having the ClimatePartner certified stamp on it allows us to say that we have confidence in the material composition of our frame. So it's not just aluminum that's from anywhere willy-nilly. It's just gives us a little bit more confidence in being able to promote that as, these are the things that we pay attention to, and these are the details that really matter.
Are all the frames ClimatePartner certified now?
Not all of them are. Anything that comes off of the automated line from Belgium are going to have that laser etching that have the ClimatePartner certification. Anything else, if it's welded by hand, if it's anodized frame that's mechanically assembled, none of those are going to have that same ClimatePartner certification.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really only what's coming off of our automated line that we can stamp with that ClimatePartner certification.
Okay. And that's the vast majority of the...
I'd say that's 90% plus of the stock of frames that you see out in the market. So as these frames, the newer ClimatePartner certified frames, start making their way out there, I think you're going to see a lot of those just at different stands at different events.
Very cool. Very cool. And for those of you who get a chance to come visit us in San Antonio, swing by the booth. We'll show you the etching in place, and we'll take a look at it, and you can touch, see, look, and feel at the new climate certification stamps. So let me see. I've got a few more questions about the climate certified frames. Give me just a moment to find one. Any difference in weight? Do they weigh more than the current frames?
Identical. They are the same frames that we've been offering. Now they just come with that ClimatePartner certification. So that ClimatePartner company in Germany has certified that the frames that we were already producing are up to their standard of climate. Losing my
certification.
Yeah, sure.
And another question, Yoni, you touched a little bit on the composition of the climate certified frames, and a certain portion of it, being recycled material. So let me ask you guys this. This also came from the audience. Do the frames have the same shelf life as the current frames? Is there any difference in the reusability?
I think, as Travis touched on, the process really isn't the same. Like these sustainability initiatives were things that beMatrix was pursuing before we sought the ClimatePartner certification. So our own internal processes and initiatives were already putting into place these ideas around sustainability. So in terms of the product itself, there's no difference in the material, how it's made, how it gets to you. So all the things are going to be the same. It's just giving us an elevated certification to be able to track and provide that to customers.
Right. Yep. That third-party certification means a lot. On to the B124 cover questions, guys. How are the B124 hole covers held into place?
I think Yoni mentioned it earlier, but it's the exact same cover clips or M8 mounts that you would use for your standard hole covers. They can be used for the 124 and the 186 hole covers as well. So the same way you would attach them to frames before, you can still continue to do it. You just now have the added option to do it to a double wall or to a triple depth wall.
So I think with a 62 millimeter cover profile, you'd have one clip that sits inside. With the 124, which is a double width, you would just use two clips. So I think that's more for just having it be visually the same, so that you could probably stagger it so you have one clip here and one clip down here. But essentially, because you have two areas to clip into, you're going to use the double amount of clips.
Do those clips come standard, or are they extra?
They're an added, something you'd have to add on at the time of order. So we don't know how many clips you're going to need depending on your design. So it's really something you'd have to work out with your account manager and potentially our CAD team as far as whether you need the standard clips, if you need something a little more structural, and how many of those pieces you need to make that connection.
Yeah, and if you're getting your design from our CAD team or through BCAD, those will be included in the design. It will show you how they attach, but it's a separate line item in terms of the price.
Awesome. Thank you guys for clarifying that. 120-degree corner post questions coming up. What design challenges could the 120-degree corner post solve?
I don't know that it's solving any design challenges as much as offering new design opportunities. So you weren't able to make that 120-degree wall before this, so you were limited to, from a corner post standpoint, you were limited to 135-degree, 45-degree, and 60-degree. This is just adding another level of design ability.
Yep. And it's with angled connections, anytime you have two frames that are next to each other at an angle, there's going to be some kind of visual gap there. So there's been a lot of different ways that customers have filled that gap, either with some custom pieces or different ways to attach Sintra. So this is just a integrated, clean look of how to finish those gaps within your design.
A couple came in on the SEG corner posts. Can you guys give us a couple, maybe two use cases regarding how the SEG corner post can be used?
Yeah, I think I've still got my little sample piece here. Like I was mentioning earlier, there's a few different ways that it can function. So if you're wanting to create a single wall and have it finished with fabric on the end, that'd be one option that you can do with this. You're able to attach frames to all four sides of it. In that situation, you wouldn't be using the fabric slots, the SEG slots. From this angle, I've got it, the fabric stretched from the edge of the frame all the way to the edge of the corner post. If I flip to this side, I've got the one textile on the frame and another that's on the corner post by itself, just to give it that cleaner finish look. So that's just a couple different ways that the new functionality can be used. But really, any way you would have used the old version, you can use this new one.
I think a specific use case that I am thinking about is, let's say you have a pretty small booth, 10 by 10 booth, and you just want to have a 10-foot inline wall, and you want to have one continuous textile graphic across the front. Now, that means you'll have a corner post here, and the textile will stretch across, similar to how it's shown on this side. So you'll have the SEG going across the front, but then your side will still be an exposed profile of the corner profile. So you could fill that with something else. Previously, with the older version of the SEG corner profile, it wouldn't be so easy to fill that in. So you'd have to think about what you would use there. This gives you the ability to actually have something that matches the front textile. So you're essentially continuing whatever design you have from the front. You're able to continue that with a separate textile panel on the side. So it is going to be a pretty narrow panel. So you're going to want to communicate that to your printer effectively, just to say, hey, this is a pretty small piece. We might want to test fit that, or give them the dimensions. But that one use case of having a continuous look, even though it's separate panels.
Very cool. I think one of my favorite ways you can use it too is without thinking about which side has the SEG channel, because it doesn't matter where you plug that thing in, you've got a SEG slot on the corner. Awesome, guys. So on to the, what many call the stars of the show, the new LEDskin Generation 2. Let me ask you this, Yoni. I think this one goes for you. Are the viewing angles better with the new 2.5s than with the first generation 2.5s?
I don't actually know. I think the viewing angle is 170 degrees for all the products. What I do know is that for the 2.5s, the way that they've actually improved the LEDs and the way that they emit light is that if you have a corner, a 90-degree corner, and you're looking at that corner from an angle, there might be a color shift from the inside corner to the other corners if you're looking at it from a particular angle. Now, the way that we've improved the performance of the light and of the LEDs is that that color shift will actually be a little bit better than it was previously. So that picture, if it's supposed to look seamless, even though it's an angle, will kind of have consistent color from one side to the other. But in terms of the actual viewing angle, I think it's 170 degrees, and I don't know how that compares to previous models.
Okay. Another one about the 2.5s, guys, is are the power and data cables from the first generation models compatible with the power and data cables from our second generation models?
No. So we've upgraded the power. Let me back up. The data cables, yes, those are going to be the same between the legacy version and the new version. The power cables, we've upgraded the ports on the new 2.5s so that they are now kind of a universal.
So you were saying we've updated the data cables, but not the power, or did I get that back?
Other way around, yeah. So we've updated the power connectors, but not the data cables. And I think I may have misspoken. So instead of being a universal white or blue connector, now both ends are black, but they are male and female. So there's only one direction that the power can travel. So we no longer offer a male to male or female to female cable. There's just going to be different ways of wiring up those walls to make that power flow correctly. So with the legacy generation, we offered a male to male or a female to female cable, and what that opened up for was a chance for somebody to make an error, plug something in wrong, and short out that cabinet or short out the wall. So what we've done to alleviate that risk is gone to this male-female connectors for the power.
I don't have the cable on hand, but something we can get more information about. What I do have is, and something I didn't show in my demonstration of the LED skins, is the way that we would service the 2.5s and the 1.5s. So the Gecko tool that we would use for our previous model of the 2.5s is still compatible with the 2.5s, and that's a front service repair tool so that you would attach it and pull off the module. For the 1.5s, this is actually a suction tool. Because the surface of the 1.5s is completely smooth, you're able to actually use this suction and pull off the module. And that's something that we offer with our flight cases.
Yeah, because of the COB layer on the 1.5s, we wanted to reduce the risk of scratching with using the same magnetic feature of the Gecko. So that's why we introduced the new suction tool for the 1.5s so you're not scratching that epoxy layer on the COB 1.5s.
Excellent. Well, speaking of the 1.5s, another question about LEDskin. We're going to move on to the second generation of the 1.5 now. If we have new 1.5s, we have second generation 1.5s, and we're also using the 2.5s in our design, do we need two sets of content?
Yes. So your pixel pitch is going to be different across across your displays. So your content will need to be matched and scaled specifically for those displays, for those LEDskin walls. So the 1.5 is going to be a lot higher resolution than the 2.5. So you'll need to make sure it's scaled properly. It'll need its own controller. Depending on how it's wired, you could use the same media player for multiple contents, but they're going to need their own separate controllers for those LED walls.
Awesome. Where does the 1.5, the second generation, the 1.5, where does it really shine compared to the other LED products out there on the market?
I think because it has that finer pixel pitch, it's going to have a better resolution. So it's going to be much more suitable for close viewing. So I think, 4 to 5 feet is probably the closest that you would want to get to it, but at a much closer viewing distance than something like a 2.5 or a 3.1. So just picture quality is going to be more crisp. Colors are going to be more vibrant. I think brightness levels, you're also able to bump up that brightness a little bit more. And I think just in terms of the performance, heat management, all of those things are kind of integrated into the product in a way that just lets it be a much more versatile type of product.
I think something important to note in that same line of question is we don't have the only 1.5 pixel pitch on the market. There are other providers that are making a 1.5 pixel pitch LED tile. What sets ours apart is that it still has that beMatrix DNA. It's still sized perfectly to integrate with our B62 frames, where if you were to buy another 1.5 LEDskin tile off the shelf from another company, it's not going to integrate with our system. Not anywhere nearly as easily as ours does.
Mm-hmm. I think the durability of the COB technology is going to be huge for our industry as well, because if you really think through what these video tiles are living through as part of the event world, they're going into flight cases, they're coming out of flight cases, they're going into trucks, and they're getting shipped all over the place. That layer of epoxy, rather than having multiple nodes sitting there, in a very simple way is going to reduce the friction that they're exposed to as they're coming in and out of flight cases and increase the durability and the reusability of your product at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Yeah, just from physical damage, I think you're going to see a huge reduction in the need to repair individual pixels. And there's a little bit more of a service process to go through just because of that COB technology. But David, like you were saying, it is a lot more durable of a product. So you're not going to have to make those repairs nearly as often as you used to with the older LED technology.
What I've heard from a couple AV integrators, and I talked with some customers at ISE about this, is when they have used traditional SMD and IMD technology, where the pixel itself is exposed and there's not that glue layer, epoxy layer. Essentially, from like an operations standpoint, what they have to do is they check these LEDs before they go out. They check it again on the show. They check it when they bring it back to their warehouse. So there's this entire checking and rechecking process to make sure that is every pixel just the way it needs to be. So the time savings of not having to go back and recheck all of these, and then even when you get to the show floor, there's still going to be a pixel missing. So that's kind of where we want the industry to go, is like, okay, reduce the number of questions that you're going to have and reduce the uncertainty of having to use these products over and over again. It just makes them more reliable.
That's awesome. Last question about the 1.5s for today, guys. Are the power and data cables, again, we're looking at those, are the power and data cables that are used for the 2.5s, the second generation, are those compatible with your new 1.5s?
Yes, so the new 2.5s and the new 1.5s use the same data and power cables. They just don't use the same as the older legacy generations.
Okay, very cool, very cool. We got a couple questions about the 124D Lightbox and the new universal pin connectors. So we'll fire through as many of those as we can in the time we got left. But let's jump into the 124D Lightbox Perfect Corners. We touched on this a little bit. It can be used to create hanging signs. Someone was asking about that. On that vein of thought, right? Is it possible to rig this Lightbox from the ceiling?
Yeah, absolutely. And in that example picture I had, that was at our facility in Belgium. It is hanging from the ceiling. So I don't know if we're distinguishing truss versus ceiling there, but it is able to be rigged from above. Yeah.
So if I'm going to mount a TV on the Lightbox, do we need any additional hardware?
So, like Yoni showed earlier, there's the TV monitor mounting bracket that gets attached to those support poles. In most cases, you're going to have to add an additional support pole to be able to use that mounting bracket. But the C-clamps and the C-clamps will come with the monitor mount. So really, it's just that additional pole you'll have to add to your order if you're wanting to use that monitor mount.
And then whatever hardware you would need to actually screw into the monitor signage itself.
However you're hanging your TV in a regular situation, that connection would still be made the same way.
I remember you mentioned some size requirements, I believe, in relation to mounting the TV on the Lightbox, but can we mount any TV?
Well, I think it's going to depend on obviously the size of your Lightbox and how much you want that monitor to extend to the width of the Lightbox, but I believe we recommend something like a 32-inch monitor for a standard width of 992 or 2418. Does that sound right?
I'd have to check the specifications just to really give a solid answer on that, but we do have that data available. So if you are interested in the monitor mounts, we can supply that document that shows what size TV, how it mounts, all the needed connectors, anything like that.
What the weight limit is.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I do want to just plug for a second. Our website has a tab called Library, and on that we have just a ton of documentation from high quality pictures in our brochures to more in-depth kind of how-to guides of how to use a lot of these products. So when it comes to things like assembly, what type of materials I use, I think those types of resources are going to be really helpful and just provide a lot more information that we can do here. So in a lot of cases, we just defer those technical questions to the documentation that our team has so graciously provided.
We got time for one more question on the 124Ds, and then I'll jump into a couple questions about the new universal pin connectors before we wrap up today. Can we use fabric infills? This one's in relation to the 124D. Can we use fabric infills on both faces?
Yeah, that's actually the recommended way to use these light boxes is to do fabric panel on both sides. Now, if you're wanting to use this as a single-sided light box, I would recommend just getting a light blocking fabric for one side, and then you have your standard light screen fabric for the other side. So you can use this as a single-sided light box, but the recommendation is going to be that you put fabric on both sides of it.
Okay. On to the universal pin connectors. We touched on this one a little bit earlier, but I think it's worth rehashing. Are these going to be replacing the older pin connectors?
So these won't. Let me backtrack there a second. These are replacing the galvanized version of the pin connectors that have the larger nodes. They're not replacing the standard Zamac pin connectors. So the stackable pin connectors, they're not replacing those. These are going to be used almost more in a supplemental way if you have a need for them, rather than as a standard connector that you're going to use every day.
As it relates to weight, how do these compare to the previous connectors?
When we're talking about those other galvanized connectors, the galvanized steel plates, pin connectors, they're going to be roughly the same, but these offer a lot more functionality. They are, I'd say, maybe 50% heavier than the Zamac, but again, you're not ordering a box of 50 of these how you would with the stackable Zamac ones. You're ordering maybe 10 of these at a time as you need them. So I think the weight difference isn't not going to make a huge impact as far as shipping, because you don't need nearly as many of these as you will the stackable version.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. This is all the questions that we're going to have time for today, but I wanted to thank the audience for coming on board, learning more about some of our new products and innovations that we're pushing out into the marketplace in order to better serve our clients. We're going to continue to do these new product showcase webinars as we move forward in the future to help keep you guys on top of what's happening at beMatrix. We also think it's just a great opportunity to connect and speak directly to our audience, answer the questions that you guys have. If there's any additional follow-up questions, shoot us an email. We're going to be sending the content out to all the audience members later. And lastly, if you get a chance, make sure to come say hey, come check us out in San Antonio next month. We're looking forward to showing you these new innovations in person.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.